Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got a sponsor in Sokoman on today, and what we're going to talk about is the news that they had out just a couple hours ago regarding their bulk sampling efforts. Now, why I think that's so important has a lot to do with my career in diamond exploration. Diamonds are very, very tiny. And they make the nugget effect in gold look like child's play. So when you're looking for a diamond deposit, bulk sampling is really important. But I would make that same argument for a coarse gold system as well. When you're putting a tiny little hole into the ground and then you're cutting that hole and sending that off for assaying, you run a serious risk of all the gold being on the in the core shack and not at the lab. And by doing bulk samples, you have the potential to get much more realistic grade. So I'm really excited about this news release, and I'm glad to have Tim on the horn. Thanks for joining us today, Tim.
A pleasure, Alan. Always a pleasure. I really enjoy doing these events with you. I think it's an excellent opportunity to get our message out in language that a lot of people will understand. And you make things very easy to understand. And I know I'm buttering you up here,
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Tim.
but
Well,
anyway, yes, I'm pretty excited today.
30 years of punishment in this business, I guess, has taught me a little bit about the questions to ask and what's important, Tim.
Absolutely, and I respect that, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners do as well. Thank you very much for having me on again. Thank you.
So getting back to that bulk sampling news, Tim, I think we're on the same page as to the reasons why you want to do it, but you're going at it in two ways of doing that. You're exposing the vein at surface, and then you're also going to be doing a big diameter hole uh, to get down deeper. Let's talk about that because I think that is a much better way to get, realistic grade or at least more representative grade ideas out of what you've found there.
Absolutely, Alan. And again, just to hit on a few points that you touched on, and add a couple more about why do a bulk sample in the first place. Well, there are many reasons, and obviously we're very fortunate with the Moosehead project to have many zones that actually come to surface. I mean, this is a property that's just perfect, I think, for ultimately for a scenario like Nova Mira's bulk sampling, surgical sort of collection of a bulk sample. But as well, there's nothing wrong with going back to school and doing it the old-fashioned way either, the drill and blast method. And yeah, exactly. Our news release today is focused on bulk sampling for the most part, although there is an update on drilling, and maybe I'll just get to that first and get that kind of out of the way. But it seems like we're back to longer wait times with the assay lab. It seems like the euphoria of 2 or 3 years ago led to obviously the hiring of many people that subsequently had to be let go when things slowed down, and now they can't find them. So
Before we get onto that bulk sampling stuff, Tim, have you guys ever thought about using that Chrysos photon assaying? Because again, I like that method because you're sampling the entire core. All the gold that's in that core will be found with the photon assaying. And I'm wondering, is that a quicker lab to work with? And are you considering any of that? Because again, in these coarse grained gold systems, it's all about getting the bigger the sample, the better. Whether it's in your core instead of leaving half of it in the core shack, or doing these bulk samplings. I think they're kind of part and parcel of each other.
well, I don't know enough about the cryos photon method, Alan. I'll confess. I am aware of it, obviously. There was a bit of a fuss created last year when, or maybe 2 years ago, I guess, when Newfound decided to go to that method based on, the variability they were getting, or the variances, maybe a better word, they were getting in their assaying of their cores at Queensway. But I mean, they're nuggety
Actually, I think
systems.
that was more because it looked like they were selectively sampling. And they got on top of that, like, cut the core here and we'll take this one because it looks better. And again, I'd prefer if all the core, I don't understand why you have to cut core in I get that there is some reason for checking on it, but the
Alan,
reality
yes,
is
there
that
is. It's a four-letter word. It's a four-letter word. 3X.
yeah, exactly. And
Right?
but
That's why I'm all in favor of that. I'm all in favor of sampling, especially not just routine core maybe, but certainly stuff that obviously we're dealing with at Moosehead. Very nice high grade veins where you can actually see gold. Yes, I have no issue with that, but I'd be doing it. In fact, sampling the whole core if we weren't required to keep half back.
well,
Uh,
in the case of photon, they crush it all and it all goes through the X-ray. So they pick up all the gold and then you get to keep all that material. It's 100% of it stays as something you could check assaying. And in the assaying process that they crush it, but they try their best to have a representative sample, but that doesn't mean it is representative. They're trying their best from a scientific perspective, but you're still cutting the core, you're crushing it down, and you're taking only a small portion of that core. Now, of course, metallic screening is going to give you a better recovery of gold from the core, but even that has some limits to it because they're not doing it on everything. The Chrysos is beautiful, and I love it because of my experience again in diamonds. That has become a X-ray sorting has become a very important part of diamond recovery because it picks up every diamond. And if it can pick up every diamond, it can pick up every grain of gold as well. So yeah,
yeah, and
I in these course systems, I think it's the way to go.
yeah, and because we've gone this distance so far using one method, I'm not sure what that would do to future reporting or anything like that of assaying and putting it into a 43101, like what will happen with two different methods being thrown into
Of
one sort
course.
of.
But
I'm not sure.
I would look
But
into it,
you
but
know what?
nonetheless, what you're doing is the way to get a more representative grade.
Yeah, and just a word on the lab we use, and I can't speak for every lab in the world, but I know that Eastern, when you send in a sample for metallics, uh, they crush and pulverize the entire sample, no matter if it's 50 grams, 500 grams, 5 kilos. It'll cost you a little extra, but they crush and pulverize and sieve
Everything.
everything you send them,
Okay.
right? So they're better than a lot of labs who only limit it to 500 grams, even
Right.
75% of the sample. So, kudos to Eastern. I'm doing a shout out for the local lab here for at least doing everything they
All of it.
can to make sure that everything you send them gets analyzed properly. So,
And
for that
that's,
reason,
I mean, for me, it's like almost 100% better doing it that way than it is to fire assay.
yeah,
But let's talk about the bulk sample because, almost every time I've seen it, Tim,
yeah.
that a company drills holes and then does a bulk sample, the bulk sample grade is always better. And so that tells me if that's happening almost 100% of the time, it tells
Yes.
me that there is a high potential that the drilling is not giving you a representative grade.
Oh, absolutely. And just as you said, I mean, if you look at even drill cores themselves, I mean, how many years was BQ as a standard size drill core for most exploration companies, and then it was NQ, right? And now it's HQ. And in fact, we drill most of our holes in Moosehead now, with especially in areas where we're basically building on the zones with HQ core. It's just a bigger sample, right? It's going to be more representative and more chance to actually get gold for one thing, especially in nuggety systems. So yeah, the bulk sample is obviously the next step for us, because here's what we get from a bulk sample. Yeah, I'm going to start with the conventional one first,
Okay.
because that one's going to happen sooner, because Novamir is under contract with their rig until next June.
Okay.
So that's too long a time frame for me to wait to get that information that we're looking for. And what we're looking for, Alan, is information on metallurgy. I'd rather do it with a bulk sample than a bunch of drill core. Metallurgy, recoveries, and here's another concept. Because we do intend to do the bulk sample with Novamir, which will require a much bigger drill rig. The material that isn't used for our bulk sample will then be put aside to use as ballast for setting the Novamir rig on when it gets here next year. So we'll already be a little bit ahead of the game and save money and time by having crushed material ready to put as ballast, either as an access trail or even the pad itself for the Novamir rig. So
And I I
again,
I think you're kind of sending a message that, and it's not just a message that people should pay attention to on Sokoman, but whenever you're looking at an orogenic high grade system, you have to understand that sometimes you can be 6 inches. Over here it says 2 grams. 6 inches away, it could be 2 ounces. And that's a difficult challenge in these projects, but the prize is so big. You find a Red Lake or a Fosterville, and those are company makers, and you have an orogenic gold system. You have coarse gold. You've proven it on multiple drill holes, and so it's a fabulous project. But people these days, they want answers yesterday.
oh, absolutely, as do I. But you have to obviously work through the process, and
Right.
so let's just get into. I have a very short 8 or 10 slides to show you guys
Perfect.
here today, and
You
including
have the ability to share your screen, Tim.
okay, including the ones that were in the press release today, plus a few others, and I may have even snuck one or two in from Fosterville. But anyway, we'll
Ah,
see.
okay. Well, I
Everyone,
sure I sure love the look of that, what you exposed there. That's awesome.
yeah. No, and you'll probably like even more a couple of these slides. So anyway, we'll
Cool.
get to it here. So okay, share. Here we go. Can you see that?
I can. Perfect.
Okay. So this is one of the plan maps that we had put there, and I'm starting with this one here because it also covers off a topic that we also covered briefly in the news release, and that's to deal with the outstanding number of recent drill holes that we put in a few places around the property, including some reconnaissance holes. Hopefully, you can see my cursor,
Yep.
but way back in Altius's days, they drilled a hole up here and had a narrow quartz vein with some visible gold in. We went in 2019, I think, and put a couple holes around, but more or less the focus then became, of course, down in this area. So we kind of wandered away from this area a little bit. So we drilled a few holes up here, obviously, to look for extensions to what was found in Altius's old drilling and our old drilling. So those are all outstanding. We also have some holes outstanding from the 552 zone. Still expanding on that. We're obviously going to be doing more work here as well. But again, I think we're 28 holes behind right now in
Wow.
terms of either partial or full results, or any results, that is, mostly from 28 holes. And that's about the most that we've been, I think, behind for a long, long time. And it's getting down to 6, 7 weeks for some of them. So I guess we're a ways away then, just off topic a little bit,
So
from getting
lots
our first.
of pending drill holes.
Lots of pending drill holes. So
Okay.
anyway, so that was one reason for this map, was basically to show, as well as more to the point about the bulk sample. When we decided to do the bulk sample to conventional bulk sample from the Western trend, after realizing that we wouldn't get any pro in terms of the actual collection of the sample at the footwall splay until late next summer at the earliest, we decided to go ahead and move forward with a conventional bulk sample at the nearby Western trend. So we had 3 areas picked out based on historic drilling that had indicated near surface high grade gold.
And
A,
Tim,
B, and
might I
C.
add that you said that this bulk sampling from outcrop is going to help you with the drilling, precision drilling for a bulk sample. What you see there will also be helpful when you do that drill core bulk sample.
Absolutely. No,
Okay.
absolutely. 100% correct. So ultimately, we chose Site C based on just a number of factors, including, less predictable results, say from drilling in targets A and B. And so we decided on this one here at Site C. So
And it
next
looks
slide.
like Site C has had the most drill holes into it as well. Site A has only
Yes,
had one.
that's
Site
right. And obviously we have more certainty and things. So anyway, we chose that site, and so about 2 weeks ago, we decided to. Well, we got underway with once we got the permit to move forward with the actual excavation of the trench at Site C.
okay.
And I'll go to the next slide. So here it is. We're excavating a site. This is probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the length of the trench. Essentially, what we're going to be looking at, Allan, is exposing as much we can, up to 50 meters in total length, strike length of bedrock, because our intention is to collect a sample of about 1,000 cubic meters. And
Okay.
there's a specific reason for that, in that in our jurisdiction, in our mining jurisdiction, anything, a bulk sample less than 1,000 cubic meters won't trigger all of the bells and whistles and hurdles hoops you got to jump through if you were permitting a larger, or even starting a mine, for instance, sort of thing. So it keeps us kind of on the low end of the I guess the radar in terms of what types of environmental studies we have to do. So
As an exploration geologist, Tim, you got to be pretty excited about seeing that in under your feet as opposed to in a drill core.
absolutely. So what we have here, and we'll look at some close-ups here in a second, but so we're looking at 3 to 4 or 5 maybe meters of easily removable overburden for the most part. Although in this area down here, this will be the south, towards the south direction here, we're starting to get a little bit of hard pan developed on top of the bedrock, which we probably going to have to get in a little pick or maybe an excavator, put a ram on it just to bust up that. It's not very thick. It's just probably half a meter or less, and just blow that stuff away and continue exposing the vein.
But that
I do want to
material
point out,
there is a piece of cake, right?
yeah, exactly. I do want to point out this star is the approximate location of a hole we drilled very recently. Obviously, it's one of the holes we drilled when we were evaluating the area for the bulk sample. We hit a 1.5 meter quartz vein right near the top of the hole that had 25 specks of visible gold in it,
Wow.
and that's about 10 meters further south, from as far south as we've got this vein here. And we'll have a better look at this in a second. But
I sorry for me interrupting you so much, Tim, but you bring things up I just got a comment on. And that 25 specks of visible gold, because of my knowledge of diamond distribution in an ore body, sometimes I'll tell you the truth, Tim, and this is some inside baseball for people. I pay as much attention to the visible gold grains as I do to the assay results. If I see a trend developing with visible gold, that means sometimes more to me because of the issue of, you could be 6 inches away from something spectacular. But this tells you you got something good there in 25 good specks of visible gold.
Oh, and on a side as well, one of our technicians, while he was washing off the vein there a little bit, and there's much more to do here. Obviously, we still have more of this vein to uncover, but he just took a small sample bag full of the material, the gravel that was right alongside the vein there, and panned, and in 5 minutes he had 10 or 12 specks of gold in the bottom of the pan. So it's
So that
there.
tells you that tells you that the coarse grit gold is coming right to the top of the system.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of features here I'll be looking at in a little more detail. We also exposed right at the northern end, and we have yet to actually see the contact there, but because we still have some more washing and everything to do. But this is one of the mafic dikes that we see very commonly in association with the high grade mineralization. We believe that these dikes occupy actually the same structures that the veins themselves actually sit in,
Oh, wow.
and are probably important for a couple of reasons, as obviously a competency contrast, and as well as a source of iron for the precipitation of gold, because gold likes iron and precipitate out in iron-rich environments like iron carbonate. That's why gold likes sulfide so much and things like that. So, and this thing is very, very well mineralized as well. In fact, we were quite surprised to see just how thick, and we do believe we're dealing with a fairly true thickness here. Uh, the mineralization, and I'm talking about pyrite and arsenopyrite in the altered dike, as well as significant quartz veining, which we do see, but generally we only see quartz veining in the dikes within a half a meter or so in drill core anyway, for the most part. But
Mm.
here it's several meters wide, and this could help as well with obviously when we take the bulk sample, that we're not just throwing rock in with some good grade material, that hopefully most of what we throw into the bulk sample will actually be carrying some gold. So yeah, really a lot to get excited about in this in this trench. So what we're going to look at first, I believe, is just a closer in look at that beautiful quartz vein.
Whoa,
Right. So there's a person there for scale, not a coin.
that's blowing out to a couple meters at least there. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And so what you see here is this beautiful vein, and we haven't mapped it yet, Alan, or sampled it, but it's very similar to the ones that we see in drill core. I'll actually have another close up of this vein here in a second,
And it
but the
kind of
two
shows
features.
people how these how these veins can pinch and swell. You're looking at what, 30 meters of strike there, and
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
see evidence of pinching and swelling right there. So imagine,
Now,
folks, if you're projecting that to depth and now you're drilling and you're 10 meters off, you can catch a pinch instead of a swell.
well, think of it this way as well. If obviously there's a few drill holes through this, but um, we didn't know this dike was here. So, I mean, if we had set up on top of this and drilled the dike, we wouldn't have known that this was here.
Exactly.
Again, very, very complex. And I've got a slide as well from Fosterville a little later on just to demonstrate the complexity. I hope everybody will appreciate that as well. But yeah, I mean, this is typical of what we see in drill core, a nice white quartz vein with abundant vugs, some banding in areas, and that's our chief technician there, Rick Crocker, looking for a bit of visible gold. I think he found a bit, but anyway. But first, let's just talk about the dike and get that out of the way first.
Okay.
So looking at it a little closer, you can see it's quite altered. A lot of iron carbonate, a lot of rust in there. This is probably a little fresher rock here, but it's still obviously veined quite complexly and intensely with some larger. And we were surprised to see these are actually belangerite bearing veins as well. So these could actually carry some more robust grades than what we'd normally get out of this. And I should have mentioned that earlier, Alan, but typically in the altered dikes, uh, and it's mostly arsenopyrite and pyrite with these. We generally don't see a lot of belangerite in the actual altered dike itself, but these veins, these ones here, there's actually a couple intersecting here, do have the base metal and belangerite in it. So, but we generally get anywhere from half a gram up to 3 or 4 grams per ton. Generally, as the amount of sulfide increases, so does the grade. But we were very surprised to see just how thoroughly this, and it's still not exposed completely. We can still dig it back this way. This actual dike is, and it'll probably contribute some gold to the system as well. But very exciting. So obviously we'll be sampling this, on a fairly regimented and fairly rigorous fashion, just to make sure we don't just take one sample with some nice stuff in it. We have to be fair, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so and these things are generally associated with, so it's not a surprise to see it. We didn't know this was here until we uncovered it. But again, it just shows the beauty of what you actually learn when you can get down and see these things in bedrock. Because
Absolutely.
that was an issue for us, for most of our life here. And of course, you can't obviously strip the whole property. Um, but we're going to learn a lot from this, and obviously Dave Collar, our structural expert, who's still working on our model, our structural model for the property and indeed the region. This is what's taking him a little longer, because he decided not just to focus on our boundaries, but to include structures that include even the Valentine Lake mine to the south of us,
Oh, wow.
and all the
So
way
it's
out.
more regional. He's looking at the
Take the whole
regional.
regional picture, because we are just a snapshot locally, in terms of our property, in terms of a bigger structural event. And the more he understands about the regional structure, the more or the better his predictability will as to where we are in that setting and where we could go to find things a little deeper. And that's still something that will happen sooner or later. Now, if he picks a spot for us to drill a deep hole that requires some freezing conditions, these deeper holes may actually spill over into next year. I mean, I'm not in a hurry to drill a deep hole and drill it in the wrong spot. It will happen, but not until Dr. Collar gives us his best assessment. But
Good.
anyway, kind of a little off track, but yeah, I like this outcrop, and I think it's a good sign. So the next slide will be what? There we go. So, okay, so what I'm going to show you next is actually a sectional view through this portion here. If you can see my cursor.
Yep.
So
Perfectly.
basically the thickest part here, so through about 2 meters of the vein. So we'll get in a little closer and have a better look. And what I want to draw your attention to are these laminated areas. And I think I should be able to zoom in. Just let me see if I can do this here. Okay, yeah, I hit that.
Oh, beautiful.
Right. Oh, sorry. Sneak
Oh,
preview of the next slide. But yeah, so what you can see here, and this is typical, are these bands and streaks, these dark bands and dark streaks. This is mostly belangerite, which is an antimony sulfur salt, and very critical. When we see belangerite, our grades generally go, north, if you will.
and you're noting there that it's similar to Fosterville, that they
Exactly.
also found belangerite.
Exactly. So even though we have looked at this in a very cursory manner, our focus is on getting it exposed completely before we do the mapping. But it's hard not to bend down and take a couple of quick looks at stuff like this when you're there. So there is a scattered speck of BG here. I won't say how many or anything like that. I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, there's a few specks of visible gold here.
And for
So
the non-explorer out there, this is enabling you to do old-fashioned geology, which is to walk around and look down. But if it's covered, you're not going to see anything. Now you get to see something, and the knowledge you'll gain from that is quite tremendous. That's how a lot of mines were found in the old days.
absolutely, they just covered it up. They just uncovered it and just started blasting.
Sometimes just by road cutting, Tim.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I've got a couple stories about that too, but that's for another time. So anyway, so the next slide is going to be a little combo slide. So the two pictures on the left here, the one on the far left and the middle picture are both from underground at Fosterville
Wow.
in what's called the sulfide zone. And I'll actually have a cross section through the Swan Zone here in a second, but so this is zero point 0.4 meters. This is underground, so they're mining stuff that's 0.4 meters across. What do you think that stuff grades? I don't know what this particular intersection grades, but this
Well,
yellow
you're
box,
probably looking at multiple ton or multiple ounces because you're going to get so much dilution that what carries the gold has to be carrying a couple ounces because you got to deal with the dilution. So
that's right. So
if it's worth mining that, it tells you that's very high grade material, folks.
and that's probably 1,000 meters underground. This is under
Wow.
the blue sky.
And look at it,
So
looks
anyway,
identical to your Moosehead stuff. Wow.
yes, yeah. So this middle photograph is actually an inset of this central part of this picture here. So just for scale, and again, this blows my mind. 20 centimeters. This is 20
Wow.
centimeters. This is half a meter in our trench. And look at the similarities with these
Yeah.
bands of now they have
All going
stibnite.
in the same direction too, just like at Fosterville.
Yeah, they these gray bands are actually stibnite. The antimony mineral at Fosterville is mainly stibnite, although they may have some belangite. But here at Moosehead, we've seen some stibnite, but not a lot. But you know the main chemistry here is the antimony and the similarity and the banding and everything like that.
Yeah. Wow.
It's really impressive. So this is I think from the I think the Allwood vein. Now, this is turned on its side just because if it was stood up, you'd only be half as big, just to give you a look. But you can see the structural complexities, and all these dashed lines are false, right? So you talk about a structural environment, and look at how these things, so where these things come around,
And
these are
so
actually
that
fold
scale
noses.
there, what's that, 100 meters? So,
That's
you've
100
got
meters.
some faults there that are 10, 15, 20 meters from each other.
Exactly, exactly. So this is the famous Swan Zone here, which sits in I guess, in the Eagle environment or Eagle Zone, whatever they call it, in the main sort of picture of the mine. And the mineralizations corridor is this kind of colored unit. But the red lines here represent sulfide-rich material.
Hmm.
And if you look close, and I'll zoom in a little bit because I know I can. So
Looking
this
at that,
yellow
Tim,
hatched
and
area here.
you,
This yellow hatched area here, Alan,
yeah,
this is the zone of visible gold in here. So, you know, you can be so close drilling sulfide, and probably still getting some decent grades.
yeah.
But the real bonanza is this little gem that's kind of squat in between. So, you know, people say you should always drill outwards. Well, yes, that's true. But sometimes looking inwards can also be rewarding as well in terms
It's
of
pretty amazing how much gold came out of something that small.
exactly, exactly. So that
And
previous picture,
it not just it doesn't just tell you about the exciting part of finding an orogenic gold system, folks. It tells you that this isn't easy. But if you find something like this, it's a company maker. And look at how small that is.
yeah. So that previous slide, I'll go back to it. This one here is taken from the Allwood East intersection here. So that's from right here. So
Okay.
a mere 50 meters along strike is this stuff, right? And I don't know if I can move it back again.
Yeah.
There's a chunk of quartz here with probably 5% gold. And
Wow.
that piece is right here within one, two. So these are meter long boxes, I believe. So one,
So
two, three, four.
seven
So
or
roughly
eight.
a 5 meter quartz vein uh, with quite a bit of what looks to be fairly lean material. No, I have no idea what these things actually assay because it wasn't supplied with the image. And these are taken from a technical report from the Fosterville
But
project.
most of the gold's in that small piece there.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
again,
it's such high grade that it pays for taking all that material and then getting the gold out of that 3 inch cut there.
and again, these dark spots here are largely antimony-rich sulfides, like stibnite or belangite, maybe,
Wow.
depending on what side of the world you're on.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah, that's a beautiful piece of core for sure. And in
And
my
you know,
last
it
slide,
emphasizes again, Tim, the importance of taking a bulk sample. That five
absolutely,
meters, and if you only got the first 2.5 meters, you'd think you had a dud.
yeah, that's right, exactly. And this is the last slide I have. We can go back and look at some others to discuss any details. But so this is underground at Fosterville, somewhere in the Swan Zone. This was supplied to me by someone who will remain nameless. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But anyway, yeah, and just look at the complexity. I mean, just look at this. Look at the banding you can see here. You can see the
And then
banding is
it cross
very,
cuts as well.
very obvious. And look at the mess in the footwall.
Yeah.
And what happens in this hanging wall? I mean, structure is wow. You really need a different brain to try and unravel all this kind of stuff. But obviously, this is the ultimate goal for us at Moosehead is to be looking at it with some headlamps on our head at some point.
You'll
Some
have to
underground
invite me
workings
up
here,
there for that, Tim.
but we don't need a headlamp here. I
No.
mean, so this is the start, and I think a very important step for Sokoman, Allan.
Yeah,
Like I said, we'll gain so much information and knowledge from this metallurgy, how the gold behaves when it's being processed, what's the recovery like, and more importantly, how many ounces of gold poops out of the other end of the machine when we shove all this stuff in there. Get a
got it.
really accurate assessment of grade, because as you know, when it comes time to do things like a 43101 resource, what happens to all your high grade assays?
Yeah, they get capped.
Major haircut, like buzz
Yeah,
cut.
yeah.
So no one can deny what you're holding in your hand at the end of the day.
That's
You
why
know,
your guy Eric Sprott there hates capping so much.
yeah, exactly. And not just that, he also hates, well, apparently, um, 43101s in general, because they always disappoint in terms of, shareholders, rightly so. Remember
Well,
what we put in the press releases.
they make you be so conservative that they're not protecting anybody, Tim. They're actually making you undervalue an asset, uh, not realistically value what you have, and that's a shame. That's not real geoscience. That's more like accounting to using accounting over geoscience.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, just the knowledge that we'll get from this, we can apply to the rest of the area, because every zone we've drilled here, the Western Trend, Footwall Splay, South Pond, Eastern Trend, I mean, 75s, they all have this type of material in them. So this will be applicable. So when we fight for a higher top cut, we'll have some pretty hard evidence to tell the guy, yeah, ignore your 20 gram or 30 gram, whatever it is, cut.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
let's let the rocks tell the tale here. So yeah, so we're quite excited. Obviously, I'm very excited when I see this type of stuff, Alan, and we're working diligently to get this thing cleaned off, map sampled, so then we can obviously apply that to our sample dimensions, like how we intend to do this, and get this thing underway. I mean, I really want this process completed, before the end of the year. And if it's, if that's the case, well, then I got a Christmas gift. Uh,
And
you know,
Tim, as I was listening to you explain this and show pictures, it made me think a lot about Fosterville. And to put that into context, folks, they were mining that thing for 20 some years and it was a moderately successful mine. When they got down to those little thin lenses there and figured the whole thing out, and that's something I've said a long time ago about Sokoman, is when you guys figure this out, with all of that widespread high grade gold mineralization with visible gold, you these are worth figuring out, folks, and it's not easy to figure them out. But when you find something special like this, and I'm absolutely convinced that Moosehead is special, but they're not simple, folks. If they were simple, everybody would have one. But you guys have done a lot of great work over the last 4 years, and now this work is like amping things up a whole nother dimension.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, Alan. It's been obviously a lot of fun, but a lot of hard work and some struggles along the way. But to see this stuff, under the sunlight, is such a joy. It is. I mean, now we can see the relationships. I mean, you can clearly see, on this right-hand margin, this vein, this thing is dipping fairly vertically. So it's not like it's 4 inches thick. It should go down. And
Yes.
we have a drill hole 10 meters behind me when I took this picture that tells us it's going for at least another 10 meters, and we
And
anticipate
also,
more than
Tim,
that.
if it's pinching and swelling along the strike, it can pinch and swell along at depth as well.
Yes, and just so you know, here in the front, because I did get this cleaned off, this is not an enclave of something. It's just a bit of rubble sitting on the vein. The vein is actually continuous through here.
Right, right, right,
Oh,
right.
but I see what you mean about here. It looks like it pinches in, but
Yeah,
again, we have yet to really get it cleaned
strip
out to
it
the point where,
completely. I got you.
and we'll put some new pictures up as we make progress with this. But um, it's September, and I want to get this done before things get the freeze
Cool.
up conditions. And I'm going to be pushing these guys, and I don't think I need to push them very hard when they're looking at stuff like that.
You're actually following the footsteps of Newfound Gold there. They've recently been doing some of this trenching as well to get down and expose the veins, and it's important work, folks. Like I said earlier, this is how a lot of the great Canadian gold mines were found back in the day. They had the fortune of outcrop or road cutting or something that went in there and cleaned away the cover to show you what you have. And when you can see what you have under your feet, it's a whole lot different than seeing it in a drill core.
Yeah, and as well, Alan, thinking down the road, this what you see here, this is an ideal situation for Nova Mira's surgical mining thing, and that if this vein does go to depth, and we don't know how deep this goes yet, but maybe it's a candidate for surgical mining. And who cares about taking half a gram material as in the wall rock? Let's just take the high grade,
Get all
right?
the
So
goodies.
yeah, and we have this, like I said, this is the same situation at the 75 zone, South Pond, footwall splay, obviously, is where we intend to do the primary sample with Nova Mira next year. But we'll learn a lot from this, and we'll apply it as best we can.
Well, that's pretty awesome, Tim, because I think you guys are going to learn so much about this from being able to walk on top the system.
Yeah. Again, I'm over the moon really with the progress so far, and obviously the results so far. If you can call exposing rock results, I do, because we're learning things right away without even the benefit of assays. So in a couple of weeks, we'll should be able to start the sampling, if not before, and get this stuff into the lab. But other things will still be ongoing. The process will still be ongoing towards permitting this thing. So we'll be ready as quickly as we can to start drilling and blasting.
Well, that's awesome, Tim. These things aren't easy to figure out, folks, but this kind of work is showing you the diligence, and the project deserves the diligence because You've got widespread gold mineralization. You've got the structures. You've got the visible gold. It looks like there could be a fantastic prize down there. If it was easy to sort of poke a hole to find the prize, everybody would have one. But you're increasing the odds of understanding. And I've always said, you guys figure this thing out and it could be spectacular. And I just love to see this kind of work, Tim.
Well, again, I echo every word you said, and like I said, I think the future is still, brighter ahead of us for Moosehead. Having said that, I just want to put in a little shot for next week. I think we discussed Fleur de Lis.
Yes, another
And
orogenic gold system.
we're going to be putting out an update on Fleur de Lis
That
next week.
looks like
And
one of my favorite orogenic gold systems because I picked the company off of their discovery hole, which was the one in Ireland there, Dalradian. And I
that's right.
followed it right through to takeover.
So as our shareholders and your audience will probably remember, we started drilling at Fleur de Lis a couple of weeks ago, and we're shut down for a break now. We've drilled about 2/3 of the program, maybe a little more of 2,000 meters. Again, awaiting assays because of the longer wait time. But we do have quite a bit to say about the program, and I think people will be interested to hear about Fleur de Lis. And you'll have an update. Maybe we'll make a date for a week
Yeah.
today to do another one of these,
Well, you
Alan.
got my attention at Fleur de Lis because I keep hearing Dalradian, Dalradian, Dalradian. And that was a fantastic pick in my reports, Tim. And, I got to encourage you, Tim, when you do this kind of stuff, what you're doing effectively, you and I are treasure hunters and we're looking for buried treasures. And I don't think that enough companies do this kind of stuff because what it effectively does is it brings your audience into the treasure hunting process. Now, none of this is guaranteeing anything, folks. But what it is doing, Tim, is it's giving people, you're bringing them into the process of treasure hunting. That's what we
Yes.
do. That's what gets us excited all the time.
Absolutely. No, I've always said I've got the best job in the world, and obviously, to be able to do it and then be able to tell people about it, through a venue like Rocks and Stocks is a lot of fun. I like doing this, and again, I think we're just, even though it's been a couple of years, I think we're just getting really going at Moosehead, and I think the best is yet to come at Moosehead. And yeah, so we'll be updating the website with pictures now as we move forward. And yeah, let's just pedal to the metal now, Alan. And
Ah, good to
right?
hear, Tim. Well, I'm gonna close it off there. Did you have any closing comments, Tim, or did you make them?
I think I made them. I think the pictures speak louder than I can.
Yep.
There's some beautiful exposures here that we're still expanding on. That we're dying to get mapping and sampling these things, and obviously moving forward with the full process of collecting a bulk sample here in the not too distant future. And I like our chances of putting some material in the back of a truck that's got a bit of gold in it. And
Yeah. I like
at
the
the at
sounds
the
of that, Tim, and I'm very excited to hear more about Fleur de Lis. So when you get some results from that, we'll have to do another one of these in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
well, I'd like to do one next week, actually, just as an update as to where we are, if that's possible. So
Absolutely.
I'm booking a date right now, if you can pencil me in.
You got some of these slides to bring the folks into the treasure hunting battle, Tim?
I've got some pictures to show. Like I said, we don't have any assays yet, but we may have some by next week.
Okay.
But anyway, just to give people an idea as to where we are and what we've got to date, and just to better educate the market as to where we are with our other projects, and as well, I think the mission for today's news hopefully was successful in that we are indeed looking at two samples. One, a conventional style bulk sample at this site that we're looking at right here. Next year, we're looking at a much more robust, involved surgical extraction of a high grade zone on the property. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that people were aware that there's two proposed bulk samples and not one that we're kind of just changing our mind on as to how we're going to do it. So I hope that was successful.
Seeing what I see, I got a sneaky suspicion that this might result in some exciting stuff once you get some assay results back. And as always, Tim, my door is wide open for you. You're a serious exploration guy. It's down in your DNA there. And anytime someone wants to come and bring the audience into the treasure hunting process, I love doing it, Tim. So anytime you're ready, I'm ready, and let's do it.
All right, well, let's talk about this a bit formally after we close down here and book a date.
Got it. Okay, folks, as always, understand the company is a sponsor of my report. They pay me to do content. They do not pay me to form my opinion. My opinion is based on 30 years of exploration, having been mentored by some great geophysicists, geochemists, geologists. So I may be biased, but my only bias is to put out content for my sponsors. And by them paying me, they help me to be able to put this work out to my audience at no cost. So not only is the company benefiting by my content, so is my audience. But again, it all comes down to the results. It all comes down to what Tim is showing here. Do your homework. Speak with your financial advisors. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.